got a cup of water, put about half of it in 1 cup. And here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to give that a little stir. And immediately, we're not getting a heck of a lot of color change. But it is a little yellow.
A little bit, yeah.
And over this next 2 to 3 minutes, that's going to get darker and darker and darker. This is going to be chloramine, where chlorine and ammonia have been blended together.
Okay, like in Austin then.
Yep, this is like Austin water, and I've got my 3 fingers in here taking a very chilly, refreshing afternoon 3-finger bath here. I'm so glad I'm not taking a whole bath in this.
Uh-oh, why is that?
Because I would not be able to breathe.
Oh boy.
But chloramine is something that many municipalities and water companies have gone to. It saves them a lot of money. They are able to have the required amount of disinfectant in the water to be throughout their whole spider web of distribution area, much lower levels. The problem is that when chloramine comes in contact with anything that has carbon in it, which means basically anything that's alive or was alive, it creates trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids. And those are all carcinogenic compounds, and there are hundreds and hundreds of those. Chlorine has been being put in our water for just a little over 110 years now in the United States. And when it first came along, millions and millions of people got sick every year from cholera, from typhoid, from dysentery, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people died every year from waterborne diseases. When chlorine came along, it wiped that out. It just dropped it to such low levels of sickness of people getting that sick in that way.
Yeah.
And they thought, wow, we've got the golden bullet now. We've got this licked. But as time has gone on and more research has been done, from 1910 until now, back then there was hardly anybody that died of cancer. Now it's almost the majority of people die from cancer.
Yeah.
And the ones that don't die from cancer, a lot of them die from cardiovascular disease. Well, chlorine is only able to do one thing. It's an oxidizer. It's a one-trick pony. The only thing it can do is steal electrons, which is oxidizing, and that's how it kills bacteria and pathogens in the water, is it oxidizes them to death. And as it's oxidizing them to death, if it's dealing with a tiny little bacteria, it can do that in a hurry, steal its electrons, and it quits being able to function. We are much bigger than a bacteria, and so it takes a long time for it to work on us. And what they found is that chlorine is right in there amongst the highest, most leading cause of different cancers, starting with breast cancer, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, bladder cancer, and lung cancer. And it is one of the main contributors and causes behind atherosclerosis, that hardening and plaquing of blood vessels, which is an inflammatory thing on the inside of blood vessels, which is caused by oxidation. And on top of that too, or along with that, it is a huge thyroid disruptor. And people are so careful about the water that they drink, that they look pretty and they smell nice, and you know they're taking baths and showers.
Yeah.
And for chloramine and to be up in the range of a positive 400, that is obscenely high for chloramine. You've got some really high levels of chloramine here.
So that is registering at a 399/400 reading, which means it's pretty oxidative, right?
That is right. Okay, we're gonna put our 6 drops in over here. We're gonna stir it up, and it's still gonna turn a little bit yellow because chloramine is very hard to get out of the water. And we let that sit there. It's gonna turn yellow, but it's gonna be considerably lighter than what this is because a lot of it's soaked into my fingers.
Oh no, we gotta detox you, Delb.
I am gonna have to drink
Now you're gonna have to drink more Kangen.
2 extra 40-ounce deals of Kangen water today just to get back to where I was. But the thing about it, people have no idea that just taking a shower, they'll absorb 25 to 45 or more glasses worth of chlorine if they drink that many glasses of chlorinated water, which they would never ever do. And that's why we try and help people have healthy water, to where the water that they're brushing their teeth with, that they're washing their hands with, that they're getting in the shower or getting in the bathtub, you know, especially little kids, they're growing bones and brains and neural connections and just stuff all over the place. And when you put a little baby in a bathtub that has chlorinated water in there, it's like a reverse tea bag. You put a tea bag in the water and the tea comes out of the tea bag and into the water. When you put a baby in the water, they become a reverse tea bag where all the chlorine that's in there soaks into the baby. And it does it same way with older people getting in there and soaking in the tub. And so the way to get around that is to ideally, on a whole house, have all the water that's going to be going to the house go through a whole house carbon filter that is taking that chloramine out. In order to take chloramine out, you can do it with regular regular activated coconut carbon, which is what most people use for taking chlorine out of water. It is not very effective against chloramine. The stuff that we use is catalyzed coconut carbon, which is made especially for dealing with chloramine. And it takes out 8 to 10 times as much chloramine out of the water as what plain regular activated coconut carbon does. And then along with that, we also put in bone char, which that bone char helps get after fluoride. It gets after lead, mercury, arsenic, chromium, chromium-6, and a myriad of other metals and contaminants in the water. And it just makes a huge difference throughout your house. And people that have a water softener, if you have a whole house carbon filter in front of that water softener, that the water goes through and gets the chlorine taken out of it, then your water softener resin lasts much, much, much longer. Typical house that just has a water softener with no whole house carbon filter, by the time that water softener is 3 to 5 years old, there is going to be a humongous bunch of broken down water softener resin showing up in the toilets. It's breaking down, it's going throughout the house, and it's just not able to do much softening. And typically at 3 to 5 years, it's time to replace water softener resin. And water treatment companies love that. I don't know if you can zoom in on that picture. See in that toilet tank, that stuff is broken down water softener resin. It's a bunch of it.
That's a funny picture, and actually that helps a lot that you could see it in your hand and can kind of imagine.
It's a lot easier to visualize.
It's like
that
slime
way.
Or something.
Here's another one. That's the first filter of a reverse osmosis system.
Oh my God.
And I mean, it was just packed in there with broken down water softener resin. And it doesn't work well to soften your water. Having that whole house carbon filter will make where your water softener works much more efficiently,
Yeah.
much longer, and over the course of its lifetime saves you probably twice its cost in cost that you don't have to spend on
Another
replacing
one.
water softener resin.
Yeah, and it takes out all the bad stuff from the water.
The chlorine,
Yeah.
the chloramine, the herbicides, the pesticides, the pharmaceuticals,
Oh,
and
gosh.
a myriad of other things, which makes it healthy water.
Yay!
You've got such high levels of chloramine here.
Oh,
In
gosh.
Austin, ORP will typically be a positive 220 to 280, 290.
Oh, really?
Almost never ever see it over 300.
Oh my God.
And to see it at 400 and some change like we had here, that is super duper high. I'm not surprised at all that there's enough left over in there for the color to be showing up on this one that I had my fingers
Yeah.
on. So it makes a lot of difference.
Oh gosh.
And it's so sweet when you run that water, put your drops in there, and clear, nothing shows up.
Woohoo!
We want folks to stay healthy a long time.
Yeah, and not too many people know about this or even realize what's in our water, for one. For two, how important it is.
It's them and their loved ones.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's something where a little bit of prevention can save tons and tons of cost and pain and repair down the line of things that really can't be repaired.
Yeah.
When you have cancer,
Right.
you have cancer, and it is not an easy thing to deal with. Water.
Oh boy, very high levels. Exclamation mark, big one too. I'm glad you're here today, Del.
It's good to be
Right,
here.
so now we're gonna look at these waters now.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, that is
It's been
quite darker.
25, 30 minutes, and this is the one that I had my fingers in. Much lower levels of chloramine in there than there is over in this one
Yeah.
that had no fingers. And people have no idea about how much toxic gunk is getting taken into them through their skin transdermally, and that they're breathing in through their nose and into their lungs when they're in the shower, and that chloramine and chlorine is outgassing in the shower. It's not really a glass chamber that you get wet in. It's more like a gas chamber that you get chlorine gas in there.
Oh my god.
So
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way, Delb. Oh my gosh.
it's
Yeah,
not
happy
pretty.
fun 2021. So this is the stuff that gets taken out of the water when we get the whole house filtration.
And there are a lot of things that aren't listed there that
Oh,
also
boy.
get taken out too. Where you've got control over things, you can greatly affect the healthiness of your water.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about your health as much as you do. And darn sure the government and the public utility people, they're just jumping through hoops trying to meet the requirements that have been set.
Yeah.
And what is considered to be potable tap water by our government is not even close to something that would be healthy for a person.